I want my talk to focus on the state of television in Zimbabwe and the opportunities that lie ahead for content creators and producers. But first, I'll tell you my story. I graduated from Michigan State University in 2012 with a degree in communications and a sales specialization. I'm a very fidgety person, so I'm going to stand up. I then came back to Zimbabwe in 2013, and I started working at TEDxUZ in the communication department. And then I started working at ZFM Stereo, which is the country's first private radio station. So for the next 2 years, I would work at TEDxUZ from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. And then I'd be on radio from 6:30 p.m. Every night, discussing current affairs, social, economic issues. And it was great being on radio at this time because it was a time of the next generation broadcasters, as I like to call it. There was a lot of young men and women who were dynamic, who were discussing bread and butter issues every evening on national radio. But if you looked at the television industry, you couldn't say the same. The programming was still outdated, and the same faces from 10, 15 years were still on TV. So I said to myself, this is a fantastic opportunity for me to transition to television. So I linked up with Encore from Nafuna TV, and we decided that we would come up with a show called Tonight with Zororo, which would be a current affairs talk show with a monologue in the beginning, an interview with a person of interest in the middle, and the third thing would be a performance by a musical artist. So for the next 3 months, I saved my paycheck at TEDxUZ, and in December of 2014, we shot a pilot of what we wanted the show to be and what we wanted it to look like. Once it was done and was edited, we went to ZBC and we said, hey, this is our pilot. This is what we want to do. Can you assist us? And at the time, ZBC had no money. So the way that I raised money to produce the show was unorthodox, because usually the channel is supposed to fund or co-sponsor or co-finance, whatever production or series that goes into production. So I went to corporates with this pilot that we shot in December, and I said to them, would you guys be able and willing to support a product of this caliber in exchange for branding and sponsorship? A lot of people said no, but there's some that said yes. And that's how we managed to raise the funding that was required to shoot a 13-episode season of TEDxUZ, as everyone calls it. So we shot the season, we pre-recorded it over the span of about 3 weeks. And we went to ZBC now with our season. And I said, we don't want your money. We know that you don't have money. We just want you to take the show as it is and put it on ZBC for the benefit of the masses. It's next generation television, it's young, it's hip, it's modern. We feel that it could be of benefit to the people. ZBC said sure. They had a look at a couple of episodes, and they sat on this contract for 2 months. So we're wondering what's going on. You know, it's pretty straightforward. There's no need for money. We just want to sign this agreement so that we can move forward and have the show up. They didn't get back to us, and I got impatient, and I said, you know what? We're going to put this show online. And we put it on YouTube, we put it on Facebook, and the benefit of putting content online is that the numbers are instant. You get to see what people are saying in real time, and from a consumer perspective, you guys get to watch the show whenever you want. There's no pressure. You can watch it tonight, you can watch it next week. So we started getting a lot of momentum and good feedback when we put the show up, and we started watching what people were saying over the next couple of weeks. Now, at the same time, Mnet, was creating a channel for Southern African countries, and they called it Zambezi Magic. And the purpose of this channel was to sort of give the countries outside of South Africa a platform to share their stories, because South Africa and Nigeria are already saturated, I'm sure, as you guys know. So they saw the show online and they got in touch with me and they said, you know what? We want to license this program. Can you take it down? We'll pay you. And that's how Tonight with Zororo ended up being on DSTV. So where one door closed in ZBC, another opened in Zambezi Magic, and my show then was seen in 6 countries: Swaziland, Zambia, Botswana, Namibia, and Malawi. And recently, the NAMA Awards, the National Arts Merit Awards that were held a couple of weeks ago, we won the Best Outstanding Screen Production for Television for that show. So I felt vindicated. But that's my story, and my story is unique because it's mine. However, a lot of people have gone through similar challenges when it comes to getting distribution for their shows and content in Zimbabwe. As you know, we have one channel. 2016, we have one channel. And around 2007, 2008, when the economy crashed, I think the arts sector was particularly hit the baddest, the worst. We were already marginalized as it was, but now ZBC had less money to pay content creators. People didn't have money to pay for their licensing fees and radio fees. People who had produced their programs by themselves, self-funded, didn't have money to do so. And if an organization is going 7 months without paying its employees, then of course you know that there's no money for content. So this period between 2007 and 2014, and if you guys think back, there was no fresh or modern content on our television. And during the same time was the birth and rise of Nollywood. People started watching, Rihanna versus Beyonce Part 1. People started watching Zanzi Magic. People started watching Africa Magic. So as Zimbabweans, we started watching South African content and West African content. We started watching these DVDs that were available on the streets for $1. But during the same period, mobile penetration in our country was now well over 100%. Even though data was still expensive, a lot of people now had access online. About 30-40% of our population had access online on their mobile phones. So this meant people like P.O. Box, who are in studio right now, who are not in studio, I'm so used to saying that, who are in the audience, started putting their content online because there was now an audience. They could go straight to the people. And a lot of people started following suit. But the problem is we had a lot of people putting content everywhere. Right now, our content, when you look at the television industry, is scattered. People send stuff on WhatsApp. You get stuff on YouTube. You get stuff on Facebook. You get some of your stuff from Zimbo Jam, from Nehanda Radio. There's not one single source where you and I can go to today and get Tonight with Zororo, Zambezi News, Wine and Dine with Tumi, P.O. Box skits, and all of these fantastic shows, Makosi Today, that have come out within the last 2 years. So there's an opportunity for us as producers and content creators, in that we can also now create and own the distribution platform. And that's really where the money is. There's no reason why we can't go to Zimbo Jam, right? And we put all our content there and charge subscribers $150 a month for content. Zimbabweans have already shown a capacity to pay for content that's of good quality. We do so every month with DSTV. Who has DSTV in the audience? Hands up. Majority of people have put their hands up. There are people now who are paying for Netflix, which is an extra $9.99 a month. So people have shown the capacity to pay for content, but it needs to be of a good quality. And that's something that Nollywood is beginning to perfect. When they first started out, You could see the boom shadow in the background. You could hear the echo when people would talk. You know, the visuals weren't fantastic, but as time has progressed, more people have supported them. They've gone back to the learning book. And now when you look at some of the stuff that's coming out of West Africa, it's right up there on a global scale. So that's an opportunity that's really sort of awaiting for us content producers, and I'm sure the guys in the audience can agree with me, who are also in the same industry as I'm in. But it needs to be content that is unapologetically patriotic. It must be unfiltered, undoctored. It must be truly Zimbabwean. And I'll tell you why I say this. I'm currently at film school, studying a Master's of Fine Arts in Producing. And at the end of the second semester in January, we had what is called a Producers Pitch Fest. Now, a Producers Pitch Fest is when you go into a room and there'll be instructors who are filmmakers in their own right, and you pitch your TV pilot or your feature film for about 5 minutes, and then they give you feedback, and you get to tell them about what your season would look like, the main characters, and some of the conflict that could be of interest with someone who wants to fund your show. So I was pitching a fictitious African country that's, I was pitching a show or TV political drama on a fictitious African country. And I went into 5 rooms, and I pitched this pitch of mine, obviously tweaking it as I progressed. And the feedback that I got was the same. They said to me, Z, we love your show, but what's in it for us, Americans? What is going to draw the American audience to this African story? Which character is going to be the lens for us to sort of peek into this unfamiliar world of African politics? And I left conflicted, because as an aspiring producer, of course, I want my content to get the Hollywood stamp of approval. Who doesn't want an Oscar? Who doesn't want an Emmy? But at the same token, I did not want to compromise the integrity of my content just to get the buy-in from the West and Hollywood. And then I came across this quote from Zimbabwean actress Danai Gurira. She said, people in the West can absorb an African story without it being shaken or stirred. So people in the West can absorb an African story without being shaken or stirred. It can come directly from the source. And I completely agree with what Danai said. I think because a lot of us are exposed to Western media and pop culture, we think while we're creating these, different content ideas of ours, that we need to tweak our image so that it's easily understood or gets bought in by the more sophisticated global Western audience. But like what Danai said, there's no reason for us to dumb down our authenticity just to get this buy-in, because as it is, there already is a curious, willing audience that is ready to consume Zimbabwean content as it is. We all know someone who lives in the diaspora. There's about 3-4 million Zimbabweans already. So if we're going to start looking online, we shouldn't be ashamed of our culture, our stories, the wide variety of our stories, the richness of our stories, and we should really tell them as it is. And when we begin to do that, we will push up our production value. We will bring back this art sector. We'll begin to promote the art again and lift up this industry. And like Nollywood, in 2, 3, 4 years from now, we can see the art sector again contribute significantly, or start to contribute significantly to our GDP. So that's something to think about. And thank you everyone for your time.